Welcome back to Bluegrass this beautiful July afternoon. I'm out in my pre-adventure area and we're going to work a few dogs. And here's the thing we're talking about today. Last week we were up on the Exercise with Small Challenges course, and I was talking about how when the dogs come out here for hunting dog training or adventure dog training, that the real key is to establish their formal obedience in such a way that they understand that formal obedience leads to doing fun stuff, right? All right, so once we kind of get the dogs where they understand the basic relationship between formal obedience and having fun, okay? In other words, like the boring school stuff comes first, okay? Then we move out here to the pre-adventure area. Now we have 3 dogs in our box today. We have Bunsen, who is a little English Cocker Spaniel. We have Cash, he's a German Shorthaired Pointer from Colorado, and we have Henry. He's a Field Bred Lab from here in Lexington, Kentucky. Okay, now, so these are all 3 hunting breeds, but only one of them is going to be a hunting dog, and even him, he's not going to be a real hunting dog all the time. He's going to be a house dog most of the time, lives on a farm, right? So let's talk about these 3 dogs in terms of what we're trying to accomplish today. All right, so Bunsen lives with a college professor in a pretty urban area, but they get out and do a lot of fun stuff. Okay, Cash actually lives in an apartment in Colorado, and I generally do not take apartment dogs into my program, or even dogs that come from high population density areas. But his owner is a young guy, and Colorado has a lot of wilderness areas, and so like his apartment doesn't preclude him from being able to go out and get exercise and put the dog in environments where short hairs thrive. As a matter of fact, it ends up working to his advantage, because for Cash, the German Shorthaired Pointer, to be able to go out and go adventuring, he has to be on a leash and he has to be obedient to gain access to the fun stuff. Now Henry lives on a big farm here around Lexington, and like you would think living on a big farm it's perfect for a lab. Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, on the one hand, it's perfect from his perspective because he can run around and do whatever he wants all day. But from an obedience perspective, right, from a control perspective, a lot of times when dogs live on farms, they don't get a ton of repetitions per day of having to be obedient to get to do the fun stuff. They just kind of wake up and go outside and do whatever fun stuff they want, okay? So this dog, he's going to go to the dove field this year and learn to be quiet and be calm and be attentive. Then we're going to maybe try to do some light waterfowl hunting with him. This dog just going to be a hiking, biking, kayaking kind of dog. And then this dog is going to be, hanging out on college campuses with he's got a brother, not really a brother, but another English Cocker Spaniel that he's going to grow up with. And they just kind of have little adventures down around Georgia. Okay, so this dog and this dog, all I need out of them for this session is to follow me around and be safe around the equipment. I'm going to have my son out here moving some stuff around with the tractor and doing some mowing, okay? So that's all I need out of those 2. Now Henry, I need him to be safe, okay, around the equipment while we're mowing and while we're doing a little weed eating, but I also need for him to do just a little bit of fetching. Okay, so when I bring him out of his dog box, come on buddy, you can do it, okay? I might get 1 or 2 repetitions of getting back in the dog box just to keep that fresh in his mind. Henry, come on, up, up. Come on, you can do it. Very nice. Good dog. So I'll get 1 rep of that. Okay, come on, come on. Come on, you can do it. Very good. Henry, load up. All right, so we kind of got that out of the way with Henry. Now, okay, Henry, come on. Now Henry's going to go do just a little bit of fetching, and these dogs are going to have to sit in here and be bored for just a moment. Not very long, but just a moment. And then every time we come out here, we expect them to wait just a little bit longer before they get to go do the fun stuff. Okay, so cameraman, just kind of go over that way a little bit, just so these dogs can't see me. And I'll bring Henry over here. Maybe just kind of circle back in there a little bit, and I'll get in this shady area. Okay. Now, the type of retrieve that I like to teach young dogs, Henry, come on. It's what's known as an inductive retrieve. I'm just going to get a couple of repetitions of throwing something and him going and getting it and bringing it back to my hand. Now, there's nothing formal about this. Right now, I'm just trying to cement in his brain the idea that when something falls on the ground, he ought to pick it up and hand it to me. And then as he gains experience with that basic concept, then we'll start adding in obedience to the drill. Very nice. As a matter of fact, you know what? We could go ahead and squeeze some of that in this session. We'll get the dummy launcher out and shoot that a couple of times. Very nice. Now in the background, you guys can probably hear my son coming up with the tractor. Now, like I said, Henry, he lives on a farm. Okay, so it's very important that he learn to stay with me when he's off the leash, and he learns to be careful around equipment. The other two dogs do not live on farms, so it's a little tougher to desensitize them to equipment. So like the owners just have to be a little bit more careful, right? Okay, this dog here, we're gonna get a little bit of extra work in with him while he's young, around the tractors and four-wheelers and side-by-sides, and then he's gonna be good to go forever because he's gonna get constant exposure to that. Where our problem is gonna be with this dog is the kind of formal obedience that comes from being on a leash a lot. The other two dogs are gonna have the exact opposite problem, where it's gonna be really easy to keep their leash manners up because they have to be on a leash a lot, but it's gonna be a little tougher to keep them acclimated to to equipment and to other animals in the environment, and the kind of coming and going that you see on a farm. Okay, so just kind of a little bit different. Okay, so first off, how about we do this? I'm going to grab this shotgun because one of the things we're really trying to focus on is making sure that Henry is acclimated to seeing the shotgun so he doesn't end up getting too excited and getting too out of sorts when it pops out. We'll let these other two dogs out of the box because they've been calm, attentive, and polite, and we'll take a little walk, okay? Now, as we're taking a little walk, I'm gonna have the girls bring the side-by-side up and past us a couple of times just so we can kind of get some real-life practice of us being out and equipment being in play. Okay. Now, dogs, they don't need to be right beside me. I just don't want them to be too far away. Every so often, I'm gonna call them. Come on, dogs! Come on! And if I've done my yard work right, if I've done my work up at the Exercise with Small Challenges course right, then when I call them, they'll come back and check in because they believe that coming back and checking in is what buys them more free time. Okay, obedience leads to freedom kind of deal. Very good dogs. Oh, you're a good dog. Come on, very nice. There we go, just kind of cut down through there if you want. There you go. And then just make the circle and come back and do it again. One of the things that you'll hear me talk about on this channel a lot is that the best kind of learning is learning by doing, and that's what we're out here focusing on right now. Okay, we establish formal obedience so that we have a modicum of control over the dogs, but we understand that real life control doesn't transfer well from a formal environment to an informal environment. So we just have to come out here and let the dogs live a little bit and get used to being in a situation where they have a certain amount of autonomy. A lot of times when you go to training class, the dogs don't have any autonomy. They're not really making any decisions because you're sitting there with holding all their food, or you've got them on a leash, or you've got some type of corrective collar on them. You're really imposing your will on the dogs. And when we come out here and I'm kind of busy, I've got equipment moving around me, I've got a shotgun in this hand, I might have something in the other hand, then the dogs know I don't have a ton of control, right? They know I'm physically am a little bit behind the 8 ball, and so I really need them to want to behave in an appropriate manner. Very good dogs. Very good dogs. That's very good dogs. Very good. You can go up that way, cameraman. I'll just wait here for the girls. Okay, now this is a real life situation. You're out walking to your spot in the hunting field and somebody's driving a side-by-side and they're delivering water or they're taking shells or who knows what they're doing. Just go on up that way. And notice how those dogs didn't really have much of a reaction at all to the side-by-side. And I wish, you know, that I could say that that's because I have such magic control over the dogs. But the truth is, they've just been around the side-by-side and the four-wheeler and the tractor so much that's not a big deal to them. They just don't think anything about it at all. Dog trainers, a lot of times, trying to pretend that dog training is more technical than it really is in real life. In real life, some good basic obedience, some good socialization, and a lot of exercise is pretty much all that you need to be able to take your dog out in the world. And when you take them out in the world, that's where the real learning happens. You see this? See where these dogs are like moving around in this brush, looking for stuff, smelling. I can't teach them that, you know? All I can do is have enough control over them so I can put them in environments to learn, right? Okay, because if I couldn't call them, if I couldn't tell them to stop, look, and listen, then I wouldn't be able to bring them out here, right? So we always just look at basic obedience as a means of removing the impediments that stand between you and getting your dog out and doing interesting things. All right, for those of you who are familiar with my channel, you know what this is. This is the world famous brush pile challenge. And this is where I start to transfer the basic proprioception drills that the dogs learned on my Exercise with Small Challenges course into real life. Now this is just a big pile of brush, but what it does is it forces the dogs to think about foot placement. It forces the dogs to think about balance. And it forces the dogs to understand that sometimes they're going to have to overcome, you know, impediments in the environment that maybe are a little bit uncomfortable. Very nice. You a smarty. Come on, Henry, you can do it. Come on, come on. You can do it, Henry. Very nice. Now you guys watch Henry a little bit. Because Henry, like he's got a ton of drive, you know. He has a ton of athleticism, but what he's missing is the early socialization that these other two puppies got. Okay, and so he's a little bit more insecure about coming out here and trying new things. And if you watch my video from last week when I was having the dogs like load up in the box, you'll remember that, you know, some of the dogs had trouble with that. Some of the dogs have trouble going through the tire on the Exercise with Small Challenges course. And the reason they have trouble is because a lot of times they just get a late start. So if you're watching this video and you have a young dog, listen, don't wait to get out and introduce them to a lot of different environments. Don't wait to put them in situations where they have to, you know, really like struggle a little bit physically and mentally to overcome whatever obstacles are present in the environment, because that's how you build resilience. Oh my gosh, look at these good dogs. Very nice. Now, as far as getting up on this brush pile goes, this is for experts only. So look, even though I do it and I think it's a great idea, you probably shouldn't do it because I don't want your lawyers contacting me. Okay, so we're gonna get off the brush pile. Very nice. Very good. Now see where this little dog went to come down, kind of got its head caught in an old grapevine. This is the kind of learning that happens when you put them in real life situations. You know, they have to start thinking about where to put their feet, what lines to take in terms of, you know, navigating a pathway. You know, like a lot of times when a dog's trying to go up or down a hill or a gully or trying to cross a creek, they take the wrong line. They end up falling down and getting all muddy, or sometimes they get injured. And the best way to prevent, you know, those kind of problems is just to, you know, take them out while they're young and introduce them to things where they have to think. You know, like a lot of times we don't take older dogs into our program because it just takes so much time to get out and do this stuff. But if you guys got puppies, you just go outside your house and you look in your environment for anything that can present a new and novel challenge. You know, you can find anything you want. You can climb on playground equipment. You can go through culverts. You can climb up rock embankments. You know how, like, when you're on the interstate, wherever the water drains, they'll pile up all those big white rocks. Those are great for teaching a dog good foot placement drills. All right, so we're gonna walk back over here. We're gonna see what George is doing with the tractor. I might load a couple of the dogs up so I can work specifically on having Henry sit beside me while I hold a shotgun and there's tractor work being done. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. All right, come here, puppies! 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 Come on. You can do it. You can, come on, you can do it. Get in there, nerd. Good, not you. You got your own house. All right, now you go in here for a second. Come on. Now Bunsen, he looks like a little dog, but he's probably really the biggest dog here. Okay, George, bring that A-frame on over here. All right, now what I'm gonna do here, put a leash on Henry. Okay. Let me grab my shotgun. Now you'll notice on the four-wheeler, I also have a weed eater, right? Okay, this dog specifically, what we're worried about kinda is the fact that he's gonna be going into the dove field at a young age. And I really want him to understand that when he sees this come out, he's gotta be super calm and minding his P's and Q's in terms of manners. With the other dogs, they're not gonna see shotguns or rifles too much, but they're gonna see a lot of weed eaters. And a lot of these dogs that are like real inquisitive, like the bird dogs, when they first see a weed eater like zipping around, they'll want to run over there and get close to it. And they don't even have to get close enough for the string to hit them, but the weed eaters are always throwing out little sticks and rocks and stuff. Okay, so same basic principles, basic obedience principles apply across the board, but we just make sure that we're planning for the specific situations a given dog might run into. Okay, so right here, George has went and got an A-frame, and we need to kind of move it somewhere. So here's what I'm gonna do. So I've got my shotgun, I'm standing here, the dog's being pretty good. I put my shotgun back up for 1 second, and instead of the dog riding in the back of the wagon for a second, I'm gonna have him hop up here with me. Come on, Henry, you can do it. Come on, you can do it. Now remember our rule here. We help if it's necessary, but we're not, you know, helping any more than is needed. I'm gonna move the trailer out of the way. Okay, they did that perfectly. Come on there. So I got my shotgun. Now I'm gonna come over here. Okay, you can kind of maybe get back this way a little bit, cameraman. All right, so now George is gonna be working in this area right there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stand here and ask this dog to sit. Stay. Okay, now George, just go ahead and put that over there somewhere, and we'll just work on him being able to be calm, attentive, and polite while the tractor's busy. And I'm gonna try not to hold his leash. And I'm gonna sit here like I'm directing George, okay? Now, periodically you're gonna see me reach down there and give him a little reward. Then every week that we're doing this, the time in between the rewards will increase until they're basically gone. I'm gonna keep trying to move myself farther away from the dog. If he lays down, that's perfectly fine. All I'm really interested in is him staying in that one spot. Very nice. Okay, now George, come pick it up and move it back. Now I'm going to go on the other side. You see what I mean about learning by doing? I'm really putting the dog in all the situations I can think of that might cause him trouble on his farm or once he's in the dove field. Because you got to remember, for every minute spent hunting, there's quite a few minutes spent preparing the dove field. And I want him to be able to go and be involved in as much of it as possible. Okay, that's perfect. All right. So now I'm gonna let him off the leash, let him go back to running around. Okay. I'm gonna switch out the shotgun for the weed eater. I'm gonna bring the girls back into the situation, and we're gonna let the other two dogs out. Now you'll notice that I have one dog that's whining a little bit, and that's this one. So we're gonna let this one out first. Come on, Bunsen, you can do it. All right, and this guy's gonna have to sit here and be quiet for just a minute first. Okay, there we go. Don't let them get out or get off the leash when they're showing bad manners. So I'm gonna weed eat around a little bit. The girls are gonna come back in play. Okay, and George is going to move his tractor around. Now look, I don't know, can you see that, cameraman? Where as soon as I started in with the weed eater, both of these bird dogs were drawn to it, okay? And now I could fuss at them for, you know, getting after the weed eater, and that works okay. But you got to remember, most of the people that are holding the weed eater, they're not going to be fussing at your dogs. So what we try to do is just put them in situations where the things that I'm afraid that is going to draw their attention and result in some type of negative outcome, we just expose them to it until they're not interested in it anymore. That's our go-to strategy. Not that I'm against fussing at them, I just, you know, try not to if I don't have to. You see, so see how the weed eater draws it? A lot of dogs end up at the emergency vet because like they just get too close to a weed eater. Now you notice this weed eater is pretty quiet. I pretty much switched over to like battery power tools, but we still bring out the 2-cycle weed eaters and chainsaws just to make sure that the dogs are completely desensitized to the things that they're going to run into in their environments. Every so often I'll call the dogs to me because I want them to always be ready to check in. Come on, come on, come on, nerd. And then I selectively reinforce their faster recalls with a higher value treat. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Now, again, I'm going to show you how I integrate the obedience into my day. Switch around there, cameraman, show them what the dogs are doing. Go over and check them out for a second. Now you'll notice that George and Claire are working on getting the picnic table situated so it can be picked up on the tractor, and the dogs are kind of helping out. I'm going to let the dogs help out, and then I'm going to call them back to me. Hey, dogs! And if I've done a good job with my yard work, then they'll run right back over here. And when they run back over here, kind of what they're thinking is that checking in with me guaranteed their access to going back and having some more fun. Now, as I weed eat, I'll periodically stop if I see an opportunity to work on the dog's proprioception skills. Very nice. Oh my gosh. Turn them into sure-footed little dogs. Very good. Then I'll just go right back to work. You have to remember that most of your life with a dog will not revolve around you telling them things. Most of the time, a good dog, and I try to make people understand this, a good dog doesn't need to be told what to do. You know, a good dog just makes good decisions based on the situation that they find themselves in. So that's the same thing we're doing here. I'm like, go have fun. When I was a child, they used to tell me, go have fun, but don't go so far I can't holler for you. And so you'll notice these dogs keep coming back and checking in, okay, because they're starting to internalize the concept of not going so far that I can't holler for them, and that if they come back and check in periodically, they're going to guarantee their access to more fun activities. Watch out, nerds. Now see again, the dog, they see he's kind of drawn to that. And so it's okay to fuss at them for this, if that's the way you want to do it, but I prefer just to let them kind of figure out what it is so that it loses its potential value. Remember, in life, anything that you have constant access to loses motivational value, right? So when we come out here, instead of me thinking about like, I'm gonna bring some dogs, I'm gonna shock them if they go too far. You know, I'm gonna shock them if they're craving freedom. What I think is I'm just gonna give them so much freedom that they don't think about it. They're just like, yeah, sure, I'm gonna go for a walk. I don't need to go too far. Stonnie's always doing interesting stuff. I'm gonna try to stay pretty close. Even if there's tractors around, even if there's people weed eating around, even if there's side-by-sides around. Training volume is a quality in and of itself. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, now major key, right? Dogs are having fun and we're doing some work and I'm letting them play. Okay? They have to be comfortable with the idea that sometimes in the middle of having fun, we just have to take a break. So I'm gonna walk back over here to the dog box. I'm gonna watch your head there, cameraman. And I'm gonna call them over here and I'm gonna make them load up for a minute. And then you probably don't have this kind of dog box, but like this would just be any version of the stay that you like to practice. Henry, come on. Up, 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 up. Get in there. That's very nice. All right, now out of these other two dogs, especially the German Shorthaired Pointer might not be so thrilled with the idea of coming back over here and getting in the box, but we'll see if we can't get them back. Come on, dogs! Dun, 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 dun. Oh, there the babies are. There the babies are. Come on, Bunsen, you can do it. Come on, you can do it. Now, so you see here, look. So what Bunsen is saying there is, I'm not sure that I want to get in that box. And I understand that, you know, but like, he's gonna have to get in there anyway. Very nice. We're gonna have to take us a little break. Now remember I told you, the one dog that I was gonna really probably struggle with a little bit was the German Shorthaired Pointer, okay? Because he doesn't like getting in this box. So this is actually, like, out of the three dogs, he's the one that's getting the most work today. Because it's very important to understand about your dog training that it's not just the stuff that you know, that's fun, or that your dog likes to do that's valuable in terms of training. It's super important that all your fun stuff is built on a foundation of the dog understanding that there are certain things that are just non-negotiable, right? So if I need this German Shorthaired Pointer, okay, him getting in this box is just going to be non-negotiable, right? Come on. Yeah. Oh, and that's way better than last week. But what I mean by non-negotiable, you know, earlier I was telling you, this dog lives on a farm, this dog lives in Colorado, this you know, by the mountains, and this dog lives in Georgia, and in a kind of a city type place, but lots of parks and stuff. This dog here is going to have a lot of chances to go hiking and kayaking and mountain biking, but we can't like send him out into the world if there's any potential of him looking at his owner and just refusing to do something. And you'll see this a lot with people, like they'll be trying to walk their puppy and their puppy will just kind of do like this, and the people will say, well, the puppy won't go. Well, of course it will. I mean, the dog has no choice. This dog said, I'm not going to get in that box. Well, he doesn't actually have any choice but to get in the box, you know? I mean, I'm a human being. Like there's no child or a dog going to tell me what they're not going to do. It's just the way it is, you know. So I put them in there, and now let's go ahead and get that side by side and come over here. Now I'm going to walk out of the scene for a minute. Okay, go over here behind a tree, and the side by side is going to come over, and the dogs are liable to think that I've just completely disappeared and the world is passing them by. But then I'm going to come back and I'm going to reward them for being calm, attentive, and polite, and patient, and not having to go to pieces. Okay, so now from the dog's perspective, Stoney's left, and now the girls are leaving. So they kind of feel like they've been abandoned. Now this drill would look a lot more realistic to the dogs if I didn't have the cameraman like standing right in front of them, right? But this is what we would be doing if we weren't videoing, okay? We make them stay. As they mature, we just tell them to stay and we walk away. They have to stay like just, you know, kind of out here in the field where we put them. But when they're young, we kind of just limit their options on what they can do. And then as they all settle down and get calm, attentive, and polite, I'll come back around this tree and I'll appear. Okay? And what I'm trying to teach them is when they're in a situation where they're worried about me having abandoned them, or they're worried about missing out on something fun, that I would never do that to them. You know, so all they have to do is get calm, attentive, and polite, and things will automatically start moving back in the direction that they want them to move. So they're being pretty good. So I'm gonna come over here. Now Henry, he had settled right down, so I said appreciate it, and let him out. Very nice. And then Bunsen had settled right down. I'll give him a little reward, and I'm gonna let him out. Now this is one of the things that you guys will run into, especially if you have like a hunting breed and you're outdoors, okay? So yeah, you'll notice I put that reward in there with Bunsen, and he didn't take it, okay? One of the things that people don't understand about food work training is that the food's not actually providing value in excess of the things in a real life situation, right? No piece of food's more important than a squirrel or a bird, you know, so that's not what food work is. Food is a physical manifestation of my pleasure, right? So I offer the dogs the food, even in situations where I know they're not going to take it while they're young, like say in the pre-adolescent to early, maybe even mid-adolescent phases. And what that does, that lets them know I'm happy with them, and I'm trying to physically express my happiness with them, okay? It'd be like if you come to hang out with me and I was drinking beer at 9 o'clock in the morning. You might not actually want a beer, but it'd be nice for me to offer, okay? Now, so this dog's finally, now look what he's done. I waited for him to lay down. When I walked back over here, he was kind of standing up. I waited for him to lay down, and then I let him out. Now last week, he would stay in there and paw and whine and carry on like there was no tomorrow. And this week, he's finally starting to figure out if he'll just kind of, you know, relax and go with the system, then everything's going to work out the way he wants it to work out. Okay, now we're going to run over and we're going to do a little bit of mowing and work on some safety issues with the mower, because the mower is like the weed eater, right? Bush hogs and even flail mowers, they throw stuff out, and we don't want dogs getting very close to them. But you get the idea, right? Just like the weed eater, we're going to do the same thing. So this is just a little video showing you guys how we transition from our Exercise with Small Challenges course out to our pre-adventure area. And in our pre-adventure area is where we start expecting dogs to be able to make good decisions based on the environmental factors. Okay, and then once I can bring them out here and I can do all this stuff and I don't have to really keep much of an eye on them, then we're going to head over to the farm, and then it's a really wide open and wild environment, and they got to be on point for that. All right, but I'll see you guys next week.